All right, we is live. What's up, perps? As usual, I'm taking care of stuff while this actually gets rolling. Got to check and see, and hopefully I don't. I've got to get over to my Rumble and do some stuff over there. Which I mean, I broadcast to it, but I got to get over there and do some comments and stuff because it's kind of the backup right now. But anybody who's listening over there, hey, appreciate you. So let's give it a minute. Let's see who all shows, who all's gonna show. I'm gonna get stuff cranked up. Mute whatever I gotta mute. What's up, Chef? What's happening, my brother? Hey, dude, I got to throw your channel out there too, man. Because hell, let's face it. I mean, if I cook like you, I'd weigh about 900 pounds. So anybody who's into barbecue needs to follow my man, Chef. And especially to get away from all the other BS that we normally deal with. Chef's a good dude. It's just barbecue, cooking, hang out, you name it, man. Vulcan, what's up, my brother? Let's see. So I was thinking about this earlier and I hadn't had it completely planned until a couple things really started bouncing around in the sphere. And part of it was, hold on, let me do a screen share real quick. This is it. So when was it? Saturday or Sunday, started hearing about this. Oh, Trump said it's going to be a bloodbath if he didn't get elected. And people were posting all over X about it. Everybody's going ballistic about it until you actually go listen to what the man said. And he said it was going to be a bloodbath for the automotive industry because, let's face it, China's trying to take over everything, and our government's trying to push us into electric cars. And guess who wants to take over that market? Oh, wait, China. And U.S. manufacturers are going to be stuck sucking hind tit. So then it kind of brought me back around to a lecture I've listened to on stream before, but I wanted to share it again because there are a lot of people asking, well, how in the hell can these dumbass people believe this stuff coming out of the mainstream media? Well, if you go back and look in 1980 something, 1984 or so, there was a guy named Yuri Bezmenov. If you haven't listened to him or haven't seen any of his lectures before, we're going to see one today. And he pretty much explains and warns us against everything that's happening now. He warned us about it in the 80s. And now we're here because most people ignored him. So that's what we're going to listen to. All right, good deal, Vulcan. I wonder sometimes how many because I don't get alerts for people's shows a lot of the times, whether it's John Crump or anybody else. So I wonder how many people will get them for mine, even though I'm not some massive channel. So let's do this. Let me kill this screen share. Let me.
Subversion is the term.
So he's laying all this out. Subversion. Basically, think about it like an information war. And this is how over time you can warp a country's entire philosophy. And that's really what's happened in the United States over decades and decades and decades and decades. Now, this guy, if you go back and look at his history, he was former KGB. He basically defected to the United States and then tried to warn everybody, this is what's happening. Well, there's a piece of the puzzle that's missed sometimes when you listen to him talk, and that is the fact that our own government is doing this to us. A lot of times it wasn't another government; it is our own government who's done this to us. The other governments who are doing this in the information war are just icing on the damn cake at this point. So let's listen to my man Yuri. Let's roll through some of this.
If you look in a dictionary or criminal code to that matter, usually is explained as a part of activity to destroy things like religion, government system, political, economical system of a country. And usually it's linked to espionage and such romantic things as blowing up bridges, sidetracking trains, cloak and dagger activity in Hollywood style. What I'm going to talk about now has absolutely nothing to do with the cliché of espionage or KGB activity of collecting information. So the greatest mistake or misconception, I think, is that whenever we are talking about KGB, for some strange reason, starting from Hollywood movie makers to professors of political science and quote-unquote experts on Soviet affairs, or Kremlinologists as they call themselves, they think that the most desirable thing for Andropov and the whole KGB is to steal blueprints of some supersonic jet, bring it back to Soviet Union, and
now give this a little bit of time, guys, because if you're wondering how KGB and all this other stuff ties into where we're at right now in this information war, he's going to lay it out. So just give it a little bit. A lot of this will sound very eerily familiar. Warsaw, what's up, my brother? Oh yeah, you already know, man. It's my brother. His brother Yuri.
Sell it to the Soviet military-industrial complex. It's only partly true. If we take the whole time, money, and manpower that the Soviet Union and KGB in particular spends outside of USSR border, we will discover, of course there are no official statistics unlike with CIA or FBI, that the
What's up, HBS, my brother? How's it going, man?
Occupies only 10 to 15% of money, time, and manpower. 15% of the activity of KGB. The rest, 85%, is always subversion. And unlike a dictionary of English, Oxford Dictionary, subversion in Soviet terminology means always a destructive, aggressive activity aimed to destroy the country, nation, or geographical area of your enemy. So there's no romantics in there, absolutely. No blowing up bridges, no microfilms in Coca-Cola cans, nothing of that sort. No James Bond nonsense. It's most of this activity is overt, legitimate, and easily observable if you give yourself time and trouble to observe it.
Yes.
But according to the law and law enforcement systems of the Western civilization, it's not a crime. Exactly because of misconception, manipulation of terms. We think that subverter is a person who is going to blow up our beautiful bridges. No. Subverter is a student who comes for exchange, a diplomat, an actor, an artist, a journalist like myself was 10 years ago. Now, subversion...
Notice just in that category he runs through. Politician, journalist, student. You can throw an activist in there because a lot of the student activism. This is all, you got to remember, he was warning us about all this stuff in like 1984, earlier than 1984, actually. And I think this lecture was done in 1984, which is kind of funny if you consider the book 1984.
Is an activity which is a two-way traffic. You cannot subvert an enemy which doesn't want to be subverted. If you know history of Japan, for example, before 13th century, Japan was a closed society. The moment a foreign boat comes to the shores of Japan, the Imperial Japanese Army politely tells them to get lost. And if American salesman comes to the shore of Japan, let's say 60 or 70 years from now back, and says, oh, I have a very beautiful vacuum cleaner for you, with the good financing, he says, please leave us, we don't need your vacuum cleaner. If they don't leave, they shoot them to preserve their culture, ideology, traditions, values intact. You were not able to subvert Japan. You cannot subvert Soviet Union because the borders are closed. The media is censored by the government. The population is controlled by the KGB and internal police. With all the beautiful glossy pictures of Time magazine and Magazine America, which is published by the American embassy in Moscow, you cannot subvert Soviet citizens because the magazine never reaches Soviet citizens. It's collected from the newsstands and...
Warsaw, let's shoot for Wednesday night for that, because this stream's going to kill an awful lot of time. So let's shoot for Wednesday night. That'll be another time I should be able to be at the house, probably about 4 something again. Depending on John Crump, whether they go, say we go 6 o'clock or so, and then run it out from there.
Thrown to garbage can. Subversion can be only successful when the initiator, the actor, the agent of subversion has a responsive target. It's a two-way traffic.
Let's shoot for
States
5.
is a receptive target of subversion. There is no response similar to that one from United States to the Soviet Union. It stops halfway somewhere. It never reaches.
Well, look, in the United States, we want to be accepting. We want to have, well, some people want open borders. I'm all for immigration. I'm not for open borders. So if anybody wants to say I'm a phobe, well, kiss my ass. Eat one. I love other cultures. I love other from all over the world. However, I think when you immigrate to the United States, you ought to at least be baseline with our values.
Yeah. The theory of subversion goes all the way back 2,500 years ago. The first human being who formulated the tactics of subversion was a Chinese philosopher by the name of Sun Tzu. 2,500 years BC. He was an advisor for several imperial courts in ancient China. And he said, after long meditation, that to implement state policy in a warlike manner, it's the most counterproductive, barbaric, and inefficient to fight on a battlefield. You know that war is continuation of state policy, right? So if you want successfully to implement your state policy, and you start fighting, this is the most idiotic way to do it. The highest art of warfare is not to fight at all, but to subvert anything of value in the country of your enemy, until such time that the perception of reality of your enemy is screwed up to such an extent that he does not perceive you as an enemy, and that your system, your civilization, and your ambitions look to your enemy as an alternative, if not desirable, then at least feasible. Better red than dead.
Take it easy, HBS, man. Good for stopping in, man.
The final stage of subversion, after which you can simply take your enemy without
a
single shot being fired, if the subversion is successful. This is basically what subversion is. As you see, not a single mentioning of blowing up bridges. Of course, Sun Tzu didn't know about blowing up bridges. Maybe there were not that many bridges at that time. But the basics
Warsaw, you're right on.
of subversion is being taught to every student of KGB school in USSR and to officers of military academies. I'm not sure if the same author is included in the list of breeding for American officers, to say nothing about ordinary students of political science. I had difficulty to find the translation of Sun Tzu in the library of a university in Toronto and later on here in Los Angeles. But it's a book which is not available. It is forced to every student in USSR. Every student who is taught to be dealing further in his future career with foreigners. What subversion is? Basically, it consists of 4 periods, time-wise. If we start from here and go this way, time, right? This is the beginning point. The first stage of subversion is the process which is called, basically, demoralization. It says for itself what it is.
Now, understand, when he's going through this, understand that the Soviet Union and then Russia tried to do this inside the United States. However, this is something that our government does to us as the people constantly. So pay attention to what he walks through here. I guarantee you can fit this into everything you see in media, everything you hear from your government. All right, Chef, take it easy, my brother. And again, for you guys that aren't following Drunken Chef, man, if you like seriously good barbecue, good cooking all the way, he's got his own line of spices and rubs and stuff like that. I'll post his stuff in the chat again, man. Follow the chef because, damn, like I said, if I cook like him, I'd be 500 pounds.
It takes from, say, 15 to 20 years to demoralize a society. Why 15 or 20 years? This is the time sufficient to educate one generation of students or children.
Now, I'll say this. Look at how much more radical. If you go through every generation of schools since, I'd go back to the 40s, and you look at the steps on how much more radical schools have gotten, especially secondary education. You look at where they've come from that time. Every generation is another step. Every generation is another step.
One generation, one lifetime span of a person, a human being, which is dedicated to study, to shaping up the outlook, ideology, personality. No more, no less. Usually it takes from 15 to 20 years. What it includes? It includes influencing, or by various methods, infiltration, propaganda methods, direct contacts, doesn't really matter. I will describe them later. Of various areas where public opinion is formulated or shaped. Religion, educational system, social life, administration, law enforcement system, military, of course, and labor and employer relations, economy. Okay? 5 areas. I will not write them down because we will not have enough space. Sometimes when I describe all the methods, students ask me question, are you sure this is the result of the Soviet influence? Not necessarily.
Dude, I can
the
see that,
tactic of
Warsaw.
subversion, about which I'm talking, is similar to the martial art, the Japanese martial art. If some of you are familiar with that tactic, probably you will remember that if an enemy is bigger and heavier than yourself, it would be very painful to resist his direct strike. If a heavier person wants to strike me in the face, it would be very naive and counterproductive to stop his blow. The Chinese and Japanese judo art tells us what to do. First to avoid the strike, then to grab the fist and continue his movement in the direction where it was before. right? Until the enemy crashes in the wall. You see? So, what happens here? The target country obviously does something wrong. If it's a free democratic society, there are many different movements within the society.
Night Strike, this is a very old lecture from, I think, 84 is when this was done, explaining subversion of a society, basically. It started out with KGB, Russia trying to subvert American values, and to me, it's finally led to our own government subverting values to where, oh God, we can go into so many different branches of this thing where independence has been lost, where people try to, it's basically tearing apart the fabric that used to hold us together. And there's a lot of rabbit trails I could run down. Yeah, if you've seen it before, and some people have, some people haven't. I did a stream on it. Oh God, it had to have been at least a year and a half ago, but I did it late at night. But I wanted to run back through it because, again, I started the stream off with the media's putting out this thing where Trump said this was going to be a bloodbath if he wasn't elected. However, they don't tell you the entire story that he was talking about, the auto industry. And man, the media narrative is all subversion at this point. They will give you the least little kernel of truth wrapped around a giant pill of bullshit and shove it right down your throat unless you're paying attention. And if you're paying attention and you call it out, well, you're an enemy of the state these days, a regular MVE.
There obviously in every society, there are people who are against this society. They may be simple criminals, ideologically in disagreement with the state policy, conscientious enemies, simply psychotic personalities who are against anything, right? And finally, there are a small group of agents of a foreign nation, bought, subverted, recruited, right? The moment all these movements will be directed in one direction, right? This is the time to catch that movement and to continue it until the movement forces the whole society into collapse, into crisis, right? So that's exactly the martial art tactic. We don't stop an enemy. We let him go. We help him to go in the direction we want them to go. Okay? So, on the stage of demoralization, obviously there are tendencies in each society, in each country, which are going to opposite direction from the basic moral values and principles. To take advantage of these movements, to capitalize on them, is the main purpose of the originator of subversion. So we have religion, we have education, we have social life, we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? These are the areas of application of subversion. What it means exactly? In case of religion, destroy it, ridicule it, replace it.
How do you get talked about if you say you're a Christian these days? That you believe in God, that you believe in that order, God created man. How do you get talked about these days?
With various sects, cults, which bring people's attention, faith, whether it is naive, primitive, doesn't really matter. As long as the basically accepted religious dogma is being slowly eroded and taken away from the supreme purpose of religion, to keep people in touch with the supreme being, that serves the purpose. Therefore, replace it, accepted, respected religious organizations with faith.
And now, how do we get talked about? Christian nationalist is a big term getting thrown around these days. If you believe that your rights come from God, you're a Christian nationalist. If you believe in, being saved, Christian nationalists, and that Christian nationalist is right underneath Nazi or right around Nazi for our media. So, that's every time you're a Christian nationalist, you ought to hear Nazi.
organizations. Distract people's attention from the real faith and attract them to various different faiths. Education. Distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away.
Nice strike.
Okay? Social life. Replace traditionally established institutions and organizations with fake organizations. Take away the initiative from people.
Gabriel, what's up, my brother?
From naturally established links between individuals, group of individuals, and society at large, and replace them with artificially, bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors,
30 carbine?
establish social workers institutions. People who are on payroll of whom? Society? No. Bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social work doesn't really matter. They can develop all kind of concepts to show to the government and to the people that they're useful. Okay, away from the natural links, power structure. Okay, the natural bodies of administration, which are traditionally either elected by people at large or appointed by elected leaders.
Now, I'll say this, excuse me, largely based on what should be a constitutional framework where words had meaning, they meant a certain thing when they were agreed to, they should mean the same thing now. And, well, they don't anymore. Not to a lot of people.
Of society are being actively substituted by artificial bodies. The bodies of people, groups of people, whom nobody elected. Never. As a matter of fact, most of the
bureaucrats
don't like them at all, and yet they exist. One of such group is me.
ATM.
Who elected them? How come they have so much power? Almost monopolistic power on your mind. They can rape your mind. But who elected them? How come they have a nerve to decide what is good and what is bad for the elected by you, president, and his administration? Who the hell are they? Spiro Agnew, who was hated by the liberal left, called them a bunch of enfeebled snobs. And that's exactly what they are. They think they know. They don't. The level of mediocrity. In a big establishment like New York Times, Los
Let me throw this name out here real fast. Don Lemon.
Angeles Times, major television network. You don't have to be excellent journalist. You have to be exactly a mediocre journalist. That's easier to survive. There's no competition anymore. You have your good, nice income, $100,000 a year. That's it. Whether you are better or worse doesn't really matter anymore. As soon as you're smiling to the camera and do your job. That's it. No more competition. Power structure slowly is eroded by the bodies and groups of people who do not have neither qualification nor the will of people to keep them in power, and yet they do have power. Okay. Together with that, there is another process. Law enforcement, law and order organization and structure is being eroded. For the last 20.
Now, and he's going to hit something here, but think about our law enforcement structure, okay? These guys are supposed to do what? They're supposed to enforce constitutional laws. They all take an oath to support the Constitution of their state and the Constitution of the United States. Think about how many of these officers were stopping people from going to church, arresting people for wearing masks. Think about how many times they will enforce unconstitutional gun laws. Think that they haven't been polluted. CDL, what's up, my brother?
5 years. If you see old movies and new movies, you can see that in new movies, a policeman, an officer of the United States Army looks dumb, angry, psychotic, paranoid. A criminal looks nice, kind of, well, he smokes hash and shoots the whatever drug, but basically he's a nice human being. He's creative, and he's unproductive only.
Okay, and from that point of view, so think about this. For a while, it went from like kind of what he's talking about. They kind of glamorize the criminal side of things. Now it's moved completely on to something like Black Lives Matter, Antifa. And yeah, I got my arguments with cops. Don't get me wrong. Those arguments aren't going anywhere as long as they enforce unconstitutional laws. They're out there catching rapists and murderers and shit like that. I have no problems with them whatsoever. Go get them. But BLM and Antifa and other groups have put all of these cops into the same bucket to where anybody wearing a badge, well, it's all cops are bastards. And it's a big media push. They'll completely burn down a city for someone like George Floyd. Sorry, the dude shouldn't have died, but he died of a fentanyl overdose. And that's according to his trial, listening to the coroner say, if I had found this dude in his apartment, I would have said fentanyl overdose all day long and called it a day. That was during his trial. That was actual testimony. But somehow he gets deified, sanctified, whatever you want to call it, and everybody just gets trashed because of it.
Because society oppresses him, whereby a general of Pentagon is always, by definition, a war maniac. A policeman is a pig, rude policeman. He abuses his power. No?
And a lot of times
generalization like that. The hatred, the mistrust to the people who are supposed to protect you and enforce law and order. Moral relativity. The Angelo Buono process lasted 2 years in Los Angeles. Relativity. The Angelo Buono process lasted 2 years in Los Angeles. And yet there are still some lawyers who say, look, he's a nice character, as a matter of fact. There was some witness who said, also a criminal, who said, well, he's a nice guy. I asked him one day to burn a house.
I haven't seen it yet.
He wouldn't do it.
Warsaw, I'll check all my stuff to make sure.
He's a nice fella. Erosion. A slow substitution of basic moral principles, whereby a criminal is not a criminal, actually. He's a defendant. Even if his guilt is proven, there is still a doubt. To kill or not to kill, to be or not to be. Thou shalt not kill, yes. But this line may not necessarily be applicable to a murderer. Thou shalt not murder. That should be the presumption, not that thou shalt not kill. Okay, labor relations. At this stage, within 15 to 20 years, we destroy the traditionally established links of bargaining between employer and employee. The classical Marxist-Leninist theory of natural exchange of goods. A person A has 5 sacks of grain and person B has 5 pairs of shoes. And the natural exchange without money is when they bargain between each other. And only with the introduction of the third force, C, an entirely third foreign stranger who says, no, don't give him 5 sacks of grain, give it to me, and you give me your 5 pairs of shoes, and I will distribute it accordingly. So the economy will go. This is the death of natural exchange, death of natural bargaining. Well, trade unions were established 100 years ago. The objective.
Now, I haven't put up a whole lot of material. I've done more live streams, especially after taking, towards the end of last year and even starting into January this year, taking some time to just, I don't know, try to get some other shit kind of squared away. But yeah, I'm starting to do a lot more live streams again. Basically, any chance I get where I can go live, we're running that shit because there's so much stuff going on.
Was to improve working conditions and to protect the rights of workers from those employers who were abusing their right because they had more money. Objectively, at that time, initially, the trade union movement did work. What we see now is that the bargaining process is no longer resulting in the compromise.
Now, and what do we see right now? What do we hear? These rich corporations. These corporations need to pay their fair share. Rich bad, eat the rich. Remember, this was done in the 80s. So he's basically laying out the framework to how we got to this point. And he comes at it kind of from that KGB aspect, but understand it's not just them who does this to the American people. Although I have no doubt a lot of that has influenced our government policy. But our government does this to us constantly. It's how they keep all the race bullshit going, because they don't want people realizing that, hey, we're made out of the same damn meat. And I don't give a shit whether someone goes and makes $9 million, $20 million, $100 billion. I don't give a shit. As long as I can live my life and be able to succeed in what I'm doing. We hear the arguments now. The rich get richer, poor get poorer. Have you ever seen someone with no money open up a company, start hiring people, be successful, pay people a living wage?
Which is leading objectively to betterment of working conditions and increase of salary. What we see is that after each prolonged strike, the workers lose. Even if they have...
Oh, yeah, and let me hit that real fast, Warsaw. Yeah, it's not the fact that I exactly don't trust law enforcement. I will give law enforcement all the props in the world when they are doing the right thing. Like these sheriffs telling Governor Pritzker, you big fat bastard, no, you can eat a bag of dicks. We're not enforcing your unconstitutional laws, or your unconstitutional laws are unconstitutional, and we ain't taking part in that. I will give sheriffs all the props in the world when they do stuff like that, or any law enforcement when they do stuff like that. However, they're not the ones that we hear about constantly. During COVID, again, I'll go back to that. We saw police arrest people for not wearing a goddamn mask, knowing that masks weren't doing anything. We saw cops go down and shut down gyms. We saw cops go in and shut down churches. All blatantly unconstitutional. So Barney Fife has a badge, he has a gun, he has handcuffs, he has a bunch of buddies, and if you resist him, he will shoot you or handcuff you or call his buddies, and they'll do all that together. That's where I draw the line with law enforcement. That's where back the blue doesn't mean shit to me. If you are actually performing a constitutional duty and not trampling on the rights of people, I got no problems with you. You guys are the best in the world. When you step over that line, though, that's where I'm not back the blue. I'm more like just the you kiss my ass kind of deal. Vanessa Kitty, what's up, my sister? How are you doing today?
Have 10% increase of their salaries. They cannot catch up due to inflation and due to missed time. More than that, millions of people suffer from that strike because economy now is interdependent. It's intertwined like one body. If previously steel workers, say 100 years ago, could strike and nobody would suffer, now it's impossible anymore. If a garbage collector strikes today, the rest of the multi-million city is stinking. I mean, there's no more service. In Quebec, for example, we had the electricians who were on strike in the middle of winter. You can freeze your bottom, and they still were on strike. Did they catch up with the salary? No, they lost. Who benefited? The leaders of trade unions. What is the motivation for strike? Improving of a workers' condition? No, obviously it's not. Then what is it? Ideology. To prove to these capitalists And the obedient horde of workers, like sheep, follow these people. And they cannot disobey. Why? Because if they do, you know what happens to them? Pickets, murders, shooting truck drivers by picketers. In Montreal, for example, I saw with my own eyes when I was correspondent of CBC International, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, when the workers of aircraft factory destroyed computers and the equipment in the factory. And the administration employed strike breakers. Their cars were turned upside down and burned. Their houses were burned. Their kids were intimidated. And some victims were there. Of that you can be sure.
That happens
Why?
in the United States.
To improve conditions of workers? No. Ideology. Okay, stop.
Another thing about unions, which I think back in the day had a very positive influence on working conditions and workforces. Now it's a money game. We want to get into a minimum wage. Dirty secret that a lot of these people don't want to tell you is that in a lot of union contracts, they have to get paid a certain percentage above minimum wage. So when you raise the minimum wage in an area to $15 an hour, $17 an hour, they've argued for, hell, some ass, I can't remember her name, in California is arguing for like a $35 or $50 an hour minimum wage. Guess what that does to union contracts? Well, that means those workers are going to get paid that much above that minimum wage for that. And then guess what? They pay dues to unions. Unions do more lobbying.
This is what happens, basically.
It's not going to make me a whole lot of friends, but it's the fucking
It may
truth.
or may not happen without the help of the Soviet Union. But the natural tendencies are being greatly taken advantage of and capitalized by the Soviet propaganda systems. How? Whenever trade union strikes, we have influx of propaganda, mass media, ideological dissemination. The workers' right, and we repeat it like parrots. Yes, workers' right. Whose rights? Workers? No. The only freedom of worker to sell his labor according to his own desire and will is taken away from him. By whom? By trade union boss. Unlimited power is given. Responsibility. I want to sell my labor not for $2.50 an hour, but for $2. I don't have right. My freedom is denied to me. I know that if I sell my work for $2 an hour, not for $3 an hour, I will compete better with the other guy who is lazy and more greedy. I don't need $3. I need only $2. No, I was made to believe by media, by business, by advertising agencies that I need more and more and more. Have you ever heard any advertising on TV to consume less? No. No way. Whether you need a six-cylinder car or not, you have to buy it. And hurry up.
Blades, what's up, my brother? Somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Yeah, it's been a Monday. But you listen to what he's talking about now. It's consumerism, and we've talked about that. Dark's talked about it. A bunch of guys, Chris Key, you name it. A bunch of us have talked about that. I understand it. Look, at one point, I might have joined a union. And I tell a lot of my guys, especially in our industry, a lot of our industry is union. I tell them, join the union. There's good jobs there. There's good pay there. Don't get pushed into the politics of it. And I see some guys go in and they don't. They completely remain on their own. They're not the sheep. I see other guys go in and, oh, shit, fire. Talk to them a couple years after they've been in the union, and it's like talking to a completely different person. They got their NPC updates, and damn, that was swelling up. Damn, that just didn't sound right. Agorizer, what's up, my brother? And they, again, unions had a large place protecting workers for a long time. Then they became a political animal. It's the kind of work to start. then they became this political animal, and it's not about the average worker anymore. Getting into the consumerism, that keep up with the Joneses deal.
When I was driving here on the local radio station, an excited...
Yeah, that's another thing, PLA. Yeah. It's and depending on where you're at, you won't be able to work in certain industries unless you are a part of that union. You've got some states, if work's going on, you're not getting on that job unless you are union. And unions have a huge deal or a huge issue with like right to work states, to where I don't have to be part of that union to work in different areas and in different trades, because they want to lock all that stuff down. And I have a huge issue with that. Why should I have to join your fucking club just to apply my trade and make a living? Call me not a joiner at that point. Johnny Green, what's up, my brother? Yeah, brother, come on by. We're up there at the maintenance shop. You know where we're at. I won't be there till 1 o'clock or so, but come on by.
Announcer said, you hurry up, rush and save. There is a pantyhose sale. Save by buying more. Of course. It would be too naive to expect that KGB makes that advertising agency to do such a crazy commercial. No, of course not. But what we did when I was working for Novosti Press, we would snow plow editorial offices, student organizations, religious groups with literature of class struggle. If not directly Marxism-Leninism propaganda, then a propaganda of the legitimate aspirations of working class, betterment of life, equality. Mind you, President Kennedy once said, we will make America to believe that people are born equal. Are people born equal? Is there any mentioning in the Bible or any other holy scripture in any religion, if you don't believe me, go to the library and check it, there is not a single word about equality. Just the opposite.
Yeah. In some industries, you are
by
not
your deeds, God will judge.
Unless you're union.
What you do is important. The merit of your person.
Oh, Green, you talking about the dude who was for basically sending out the National Guard to confiscate all firearms, and he wanted the government to have an absolute monopoly on violence? If you're talking about him, yeah, I saw that. And he looks exactly like someone you would think would believe that. And had his bottom surgery. Oh, talking about packing the courts? I didn't hear that part. But it's coming. I can promise you this. If Biden did win in 2024, which I think there's already a bunch of shit going on, you can expect either our court to turn over naturally, because there will be Justices Thomas and a couple others that are just old, tired, and they're done with this shit and ready to get out. So he'll be able to appoint justices. Or if that doesn't happen, he will pack the court. And if he packs the court, guess what? There's not going to be a single person he packs that court with that actually believes in constitutional rights. It'll be like Sotomayor. It'll be like, oh my God, Jackson Brown, which we've listened to her in a bunch of oral arguments. Listen to her today. She is fighting hard for the title of the dumbest son of a bitch on the Supreme Court. And she is fighting hard. She has horseshoes in her gloves, punching Olega Kagan in the face, trying to defend that title. Yeah, dude, when it gets to that point, yeah, it's just bring it on at that point. Let's go ahead and get down, and let's get this shit over with. You already know them 30-06 APs are going to be going. You got a stock of them. We can just start lining up Humvees at the front of the house if we need to. God forbid they send in the blue helmets. I'm going to have me a damn stock of those bastards. But again, talking about subversion, you look at probably more than 50, probably getting into 60% of our society believes our government, believes the media. That's how we're at. That's just where we're at now, to where you have a large portion of our society who thinks Joe Biden's just doing a great job because all they pay attention to is the media. They can't think for themselves. They get their mainstream media update and then they run around puking that shit on everybody else. Actually announced they were counting. Yes, Blade. Well, it's all about representation. If you just count people living in a state, well, guess what? They get more representation in the House and the Senate. They could completely change, no matter what, they could completely change the makeup of the House and Senate just based off of the census itself. And that is part of the plan. That's part of this open border plan.
You cannot legislate equality. If you want to be equal, you have to be equal. You have to deserve it. And yet we build our society on the principle of equality. We say people are equal. We know it is false. Yeah. It's a lie. Some people are tall and stupid. Others are short, bold, and clever.
Yeah. Get your booster.
If we make them equal by force, if we put the principle of equality in the basis of our socio-political structure, it's the same thing as...
Now, remember, when he's saying equality now is changed to equity.
As building a house on sand. Sooner or later, it will collapse. And that's exactly what happens.
That's exactly
and we, as Soviet propaganda makers, are trying to push you in the direction which you go yourself. Equality. Yes, equality. People are equal. Land of equal opportunities. Is it true or not? Think about it. Equal opportunities. Should there be equal opportunities? For me and for a lazy bastard who come here from some other country and immediately registers as a welfare recipient benefits. I never received a single no, sorry.
Again, this was in like 1984. Look at where we're looking at now. You see people come across the border. They're handed like credit cards or debit cards with $4,000 to $8,000 on them, getting free housing.
I did this once, but I never applied for welfare. For the 13 years, I took any job. Security guard, journalist, taxi driver, anything.
That's PLA. I got to hit that again. I was going to go back over those arguments and decided to do this instead because it kind of blends into the whole free speech and all that, everything going on right now. But yeah, Ketanji Brown saying that free speech was there to, it could hamstring the government. Yes, that is the entire point of the First Amendment, is so that people can speak out against what the government's doing and hamstring the shit out of them. And if that doesn't fucking work, guess what? The Second Amendment comes into play. Telling you, she is fighting for the dumbest motherfucker on the Supreme Court. That title. Oh yeah, dude. Those secret flights ain't secret. If you're paying attention. Now, if you're not paying attention, all you're doing is absorbing the mainstream line, or you're in your left-wing echo chamber, then yeah, that kind of shit doesn't exist. Why does that matter? It's freaking... Oh, man, I wish people would wake the fuck up. Your government is pissing down your neck and telling you it's raining. And that's some really stinky urine that they're throwing at you.
Well, I was restless, but some people don't like it. They immediately. So why should we have equal opportunities? Why?
The equal opportunity to excel.
Equal opportunity in equal circumstances, yes, but you know.
Well, look, and he's getting into a part, equal opportunity, equal circumstances. Yes, we don't always start at the same part, but what I wanted to hit, and Blade mentioned it right there, this shit is all on purpose. The leftists, the statists, whether they are left or right, the leftists or the statists, and leftists and statists goes together. Some on the right aren't necessarily statists, some are. They will gladly destroy this country, turn it into absolute rubble, as long as they get to rule over the ashes. That's all they care about is their power. And they know most of this isn't going to affect them. If they need a raise, they'll vote one in. If they need more money, they'll print more damn money.
People are different. To excel, yes, provided we reach the same level of excellency, perfection, which is hypothetical, distant future. Yes, maybe. But we know perfectly well that even with the best intentions, people could not be equal. Why should we have equality in the, say, legal system? Myself,
Yeah. Oh, I know,
I'm considering
Green.
myself a law-abiding citizen. And a person who comes here to rob and shoot.
Crystals.
The United States administration under Carter imported thousands of Cuban criminals. They were non-criminals, yet they were accepted. Do you think it's fair if myself and my wife from Philippines, who works like a, excuse me, horse as a lab technician in a hospital, should have the same rights as a criminal from Cuba? Why? And yet we repeat as parrots, equality, equality, equality. And the Soviet propaganda system helps us to believe that equality is something which is desirable. Democracy, as it was established by fathers of this country, of this system in the last century, is not equality. It's the system where unequal people have...
All right. I realize if I do this, there's a very good chance of Man Against the Masses photoshopping another Bud Light into my hand. But this is not Bud Light. This is Keystone. And if they hurt my feelings, I don't know. I'll have to switch to another cheap beer. But yeah, not the blue can, not that blue can. I can't remember when the last time I even drank one of those was. I had to have been in my 20s. Put it that way. 47 now.
Have a chance to survive and help each other.
May or may not have that recipe.
In constant competition, in constant perfection, not inequality, which is superimposed from a godfather or a nice person in Washington, D.C.
Oh, dude.
And the absolute equality exists in Soviet Union.
For a cheap-ass beer.
Quote-unquote equality. Everybody is equal in dirt. Except some people are more equal than the others in Politburo.
Yeah, they are straight out of umbrellas.
So, the moment you bring a country to the point of almost total demoralization, when nothing works anymore, when you are not sure whether it is right or wrong, good and bad, but there's no division between evil and good, when even the leaders of church sometimes say, well, violence for the sake of justice, especially social.
Tell me this dude is not explaining where we're at right now. Because you had a lot of black churches supporting BLM, burning down cities. If you're violent for the right reason, which I do believe there is a time for violence, there is a right reason to get violence. Or get violent, but not what it's been made out to be.
Justice is justified in a country
Social
like
justice.
Nicaragua, El Salvador, well, maybe Rhodesia, and we listen to them and say, yeah, probably it's true. Is it true? No, it is not true. Violence is not justified.
Oh, one car, that's
Especially for the
hitting
sake of
low.
quote-unquote
I
social
will
justice
open the next one
introduced
on
by
camera.
Marxist-Leninists. That is my former colleagues from Novosti Press Agency.
Oh, I love you
We reached
guys
that
so
point.
much.
The next step is destabilization. Again, this word says for itself what it is. To destabilize all the relations, all the accepted institutions and organizations in a country of your enemy. How you do it? You don't have to send a battalion of KGB agents to blow up bridges. No. You let them do it themselves. The area of application is, again, it's narrower now. Not like the previous case. The overt legitimate actions of the KGB in this case would be hardly noticeable. There is no crime if a professor who recently went to USSR introduces a course of Marxism-Leninism in a Californian college, for example. Nobody is going to come to his doorstep and say, okay, mister, come, you are under arrest. No, it's not a crime. It's not even considered a moral crime against your country. So the area of application here is narrowing down to economy, again, labor relations, right? To law and order, plus military.
Well, hey, Bob, what's up, brother? I was just pausing to mention something else. But yeah, chambered. So in Georgia, you're supposed to show ID. However, like in 2020, me and my wife hadn't been in Georgia for 2 years. My last vote in Georgia was basically against Stacey Abrams. Remember that whole thing run around. But in 2020, we got mail-in ballots. I used my parents' address for a little while before we actually got our house and got everything squared away. So it was the last address of record in Georgia. And even though we were in Alabama, living in Alabama, had bills in Alabama, trucks registered in Alabama, whole 9 yards, we still got ballots in Georgia. I literally could have mailed in 2 ballots in Georgia without ID, mail-in ballots, and just send them through. And if I was a dirty prick, I guess I could have voted for Trump and did it, but not. That's the difference between us and a lot of leftists and a lot of statists, because we actually believe in things like honesty.
And economy, law and order. Yes, and again, the media, but wider scope, little bit different. I'll explain later. Okay, basically 3 areas. Economy. The radicalization of bargaining process. If on that stage
it's
we still
absolutely
could achieve
that
theoretically some positive compromise between the negotiating sides with say, the arbitrary introduction of arbitrary judges, a third side, objectively judging the demands of both sides. Here it's radicalization. On the stage of destabilization, we cannot come.
Dude, January 6th, and listen to this, it proves it. January 6th was just another kind of step in this ladder. There were some people that got violent there. There were also a hell of a lot of people that got violent there because they were attacked by the police and they were defending themselves. And they were instigators in the crowd getting people ramped up. There were all sorts of feds in the crowd. That shit's been proven many times. Then you open the doors. Some people broke windows and some people went in. I agree with that. Hey, is what it is. However, you're now, and Rich did a stream about this, what is it, Saturday or Sunday, 50-something-year-old lady. She walked in through an open door and you're arresting her. There were leftist people, supposed to be media, that went in with the crowd. You don't see them getting arrested. You don't see the other leftists in the crowd being arrested. They all fit kind of this mold that they want them to fit. January 6th was, it seriously was the Fed's direction. period. We might have to start a Rumble stream one night and go into that.
To compromise even within a family. The husband and wife couldn't figure out which is better. Husband wants his kids to eat at the table, and wife wants him, a child, to roam around the
that's
room
a good question,
and drop
Bob.
food all over the floor. They cannot come to compromise unless they start a fight. It's impossible to reach a compromise, constructive compromise, between neighbors. Some people say, I don't like you to watering your lawn at that time because exactly at that time I'm walking my dog and he's getting nervous and he cannot pass his bowels, you know. So they cannot compromise. They go to a civil court or something like that.
Absolutely a setup.
Radicalization of human relations.
I'm listening.
No more compromise. Fight, fight, fight. The normal, traditionally accepted relations are destabilized. The relations between teachers and students in schools and colleges. Fight. The relations between, in economical sphere, between laborers and employers are further radicalized. No more acceptance of the legitimacy of demands of workers. Unlike Japanese, with the theory Z, if you ever heard about it, where the workers are involved in the decision-making process. Therefore, they don't have moral incentive to fight their bosses. In the United States, it's just the opposite. The harder is the fight, the better. The more heroic they look. When the Greyhound network was on strike recently, the correspondents of local TV networks all over the United States were approaching the strikers, and they say, oh yes, we are doing something nice. They look like heroes and they were proud. There was some family, the husband was a bus driver. Now they decided in a protest against the bosses to camp somewhere in the forest. And they were presented to the audience as a heroic, nice people. You see? The violent clashes between passengers, picketers, and the strikers are presented as something normal. 10, 15, 20 years ago, we would be angry, say, why so much hatred? Today we are not. We say, well, it's commonplace. Radicalization, militarization sometimes. As I explained on that stage, I took a step a little bit further. Shooting people. Okay, law and order now.
Shooting people, kind of like a Trump supporter walking through, I think it was Washington State, getting shot by a leftist in the middle of the damn street. Or BLM, just shooting people up in the middle of their protests. One of the ones that pissed me off during that whole time, it was a black woman. I think she had 2 kids in the car. Excuse me. She dared go around one of these BLM protests in Atlanta, and they shot her car up and killed her 8-year-old daughter. Yeah, that little black life didn't matter a bit to those cocksuckers. I was going to say excuse the language, but no, that language is completely appropriate at that point. To shoot into a lady's car or kill her 8-year-old daughter. And it's... Oh, yeah, they got MRAPs, man. I've seen the one down here for Russell County Sheriff's Department a couple times lately. I don't know what they were going to do, but yeah, they got MRAP.
Also, is pushed into the area where previously people settled their differences peacefully and legitimately. Now, we are getting, with this court cases, in the smallest irrelevant cases, we cannot solve our problems anymore. The society at large becomes more and more antagonistic between individuals, between groups of individuals, and the society at large.
Again, this was in the 80s.
The media puts himself in the opposition to the society in general, at large, separate alienated. Okay? On that stage, you remember I was talking a couple of hours ago about the sleepers. That's when the students from, say, United States, if they are trained in Lumumba University, or developing nations, that's the students I was dealing with, are being sent back from the Soviet Union here. Or if they were already in the United States, in the country, which is the object of subversion, they spring to action. The sleepers go up. They slept for 15 to 20 years. Now they become leaders of groups, preachers, I don't know, public figures.
Dare I say, dreamers?
Prominently, they actively include themselves in a political process. All of a sudden, we see a homosexual. 15 years ago, he did his dirty job and nobody cared. Now, he makes it a political issue.
And now we have transgendered teachers wanting to talk sex with 6-year-olds. And we want people to justify a 10-year-old changing their gender. Again, this was in the 80s. So that whole 15 to 20 years to change over a generation. If we said this was 84 to 94, that's 20 years. That's one generation changing over. 94, 2004. Then to 14. Now 24.
Political issue. He demands recognition, respect, human rights, and he rallies a large group of people. And there are violent clashes between him and police, his group and ordinary people, no matter what. It's black against white, yellows against green, doesn't matter where the division line goes. As long as this group come into antagonistic clash, sometimes militantly, sometimes with firearms, that is destabilization process. The sleepers, many of whom are simply KGB agents, become leaders of the process of destabilization. Doesn't mean that Comrade Andropov sends Comrade Ivanov to the United States. The person who takes care is already here. He's a respected citizen of the United States. Sometimes he gets money from various foundations for his legitimate struggle for, I don't know, human rights, women's rights, kid lib, prison lib, whatever. There are sympathetic Americans who donate their money.
I've seen those.
This stabilization process usually leads directly to the process of crisis. In case of developing nations, that's the area where I was active. The process starts when the legitimate bodies of power, the social structure collapse, it cannot function anymore. So instead, we have artificial body injected into society, such as non-elected committees. You remember I was talking about them here. Social workers who are not elected by people, media who are self-appointed rulers of your opinion, some strange groups which claim that they know how to lead society forward. They don't usually. All they care is how to collect donations and sell their own concocted ideology, mixture of religion and ideology. Here, we have all this artificial body claiming power. If the power is denied to them, they take it by force. In case of Iran, for example, all of a sudden we have revolutionary committees. What kind of revolution? There was no revolution yet, and yet they had the committees. They were taking power of judgment. They had the power of execution. They had the power of legislation, and that they had the power of judicial. All of them combined in one
what's
person.
up, brother?
Half-baked intellectuals, sometimes
15 to 30
graduated from
years,
Harvard
15,
University
20.
or Berkeley.
That math
He
doesn't
comes back to
change too
his
much,
country
man.
and he thinks that he knows the answer to all the social, economical problems. Okay? Crisis.
And that right there is why, and people that have hung out in the stream a long time have heard me talk about. You had radicals back in the, even starting really in the 20s, 30s, but especially 40s, who got into the education system and they raised a generation of people that were even more radical than them. That group took over 60s, 70s, even more radical. 80s, even more radical. 90s, even more radical. And it goes for a bunch of different policies to where you have people openly advocating for things now and don't feel bad about it that would have got you a wood chipper 20 years ago. If you dug up the most leftist Democrat you could find 30 years ago, they died 30 years ago, and you dug them up and you put them in front of things now and showed them what was going on with the education system and people wanting to have blatant books about gender and very blatant sexual material in front of elementary school kids, they would have thought, this is crazy. Today, people want to hold that as the norm. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Blade. Yeah, I've seen plenty of videos of parents who pulled a book out of their elementary school library and tried to read it in a either a town hall or a commission meeting or a school board meeting, and they just get run over. That's shut down. No, you can't say that here. That's explicit. No, you can't say those words here. Wait a second. You want those in front of my 6-year-old, but I can't read them in your meeting. And yes, Brooke. Hey, Brooke, how's it going, my sister? But yeah, it is about stealing that innocence. It's about destroying that innocence. See, when you're innocent, you still have ideals about something that's right, something that's wrong, this sense of fairness. You realize everything's not fair, but you still have that. You still have that wonder in your life. And it is absolutely about destroying that. And whether it's your average person in America, we believe things should be fair. We don't believe everybody starts out at the same point. I mean, I can't play for the NBA. I'm short, fat, white. I can't run, and I suck with a basketball. So I know I'm not playing for the NBA. It's just not happening. I'm not gonna make $1 million, $1 billion doing that shit. So obviously, everybody has a different skill set, a different job, different areas that they work in. But this idea that everybody, even no matter their starting point, should end up at the same point is ridiculous. And now we try to, there are people out there that want to, oh God, I hate trying to censor stuff. Normalize kids sniffing. Let's put it that way. And make that just a normal fact of life. I want to make wood chippers great again. Hopefully my argument wins at some point.
Is when society cannot function anymore productively, it collapses. Obviously, that's the word for crisis. So therefore, the population at large is looking for a savior. The religious groups are expecting a messiah to come. The workers say, we have family to feed. Let's have a strong government, maybe socialist government, centralized. When somebody put the employers on.
How much do we hear that now? Living wage, the government has to provide a living wage. Universal basic income.
Their place and Let us work. We are sick and tired of going to strike and missing overtime and all that stuff. We need some strong man, strong government, a leader, a savior is needed. Population is sick and tired already.
Barack Obama.
And here we are. We have a savior.
Joe Biden.
Either a foreign nation comes in, or the local group of
Oh yeah,
leftists,
you
Marxists,
know
no matter what they
Brandon
call
likes
themselves,
sniffing.
Sandinista, a reverend or some sort, Bishop Muzureva, like in Zimbabwe.
Okay, I'm not censoring this comment. Fuck it. I'm pretty sure Joe Biden was a drug dog back in the day. Only in this life, they trained him on small children and little girls.
Matter. A savior comes and says, I will lead you. So we have two alternatives here.
Good deal, sis. Hopefully, I'll keep an eye out for anything you post, and we'll see whether we can spread the word. But yeah, thank you so much for what you do, Brooke. You're freaking awesome.
Civil war and invasion.
How many times do those two get mentioned these days?
Okay? See how it goes? Civil war, we know what it is. Lebanon is the best example. The Civil War, which was
strong
artificially
sniffer.
implanted in Lebanon by
Strong
injection
sniffer.
of force of PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Invasion we have in many other countries like Afghanistan. Name any East European country, it was invaded by the Soviet army. But the result is the same. The next stage is normalization. Normalization is a very ironic word, of course. It is borrowed from 1968 situation in Czechoslovakia, when the Soviet propaganda and after them New York Times declared the country is normalized. The tanks moved into Prague, so there's no more Prague Spring, there's no more violence. Normalization. At that stage, the self-appointed rulers of the society don't need any revolution anymore. They don't need any radicalism anymore. So this is the reverse from destabilization. Basically, it is stabilizing the country by force. So all the sleepers and activists and social workers and liberals and homosexuals and professors and Marxists and Leninists are being eliminated physically sometimes. They've done their job already. Okay? They are not needed anymore. The new rulers need stability to exploit the nation, to exploit the country, to take advantages of the victory. Okay? So no more revolutionaries.
Yeah,
please.
Blades.
And that's exactly what happens in a number of countries. You remember Bangladesh? This is the crisis in which I was instrumental. First they had Mujibur Rahman. In 1971, he was the leader of People's Party, Awami League, with mustache like Stalin. He was in Russia many times. In 5 years, he was shot by his former colleagues, Marxists. He fulfilled his function. In Afghanistan, it happened 3 times.
And it's going to be hysterical at some point in time in the future, where there are a whole lot of us envies us militant, violent, extremist, whatevers who, I don't know, do something as simple as believe in God, believe in personal responsibility, believe in firearms ownership. It's going to be funny when they finally disarm us, throw us on trains, when we're sitting there with people who supported the government ideals all the way, and they're looking at us crazy going, how did we get here? You're the one who supported this dickhead. That's how you got here.
First there was Taraki, then there was Amin, now there's Babrak Karmal. They killed each other successively, one after another. The moment he fulfills his duty, the first one demoralized country, the second destabilized, the third one brought it to crisis. Goodbye, comrades. Babrak Karmal comes from Moscow and put into the seat of power. Same thing happened in Grenada recently. Maurice Bishop, Marxist, was killed by Austin, what's his name, General something, who was also a Marxist. Right? So no more revolutions, please. Normalization now. From now on, no more strikes, no more homosexuals, no more women lib, no more kid lib, no more lib, period. Good, solid, democratic, proletarian freedom. That's it. Now, to reverse this process takes enormous effort. When today, United States had to invade Grenada to reverse the process of subversion. Some people say, boy, this is not good, it's not kosher to invade the beautiful country, island of Grenada. Well, why didn't you stop the process here, when Grenada was just approached by leftists? Why not to prevent Maurice Bishop to come in power in the first place? Did Grenadians want him? Very questionable. They didn't know who was Maurice Bishop in the first place. He came to power by coup d'etat himself. Okay? No, we let the situation develop further and further and further until the crisis and normalization very soon. And then the United States decided to invade country, discovering that the country was absolutely a military base for the Soviet Union. Of course it's a drastic measure. Of course it's a pity that Marine Corps had to lose, what, 17 lives. Very bad. Why not to stop the process before it comes to crisis? Oh no, intellectuals will not let you. It's interference into domestic affairs. They're very careful not to let American administration to interfere in domestic affairs of Latin American countries. They don't mind Soviet Union interfere in these affairs. Okay. So to reverse this process, from here, it takes only and always military force. No other force on earth can reverse this process at this point. At this point, it does not take military invasion of the United States Army. It takes strong action, like in Chile. A CIA covert involvement to prevent the savior from outside to come into power and to stabilize country before it erupts into civil war. Country before it erupts into civil war. Okay? Support the right-wing conservative forces. By money, by crooks or love, doesn't matter. Stabilize the country. Don't let the crisis develop into civil war or invasion. Oh no, your liberals will say it's against the law. The Congress will not appropriate money for covert actions of CIA. Why not? Should we wait till the normalization come and Soviet tanks land in Los Angeles airport? Now, at that point, at the point of destabilization, also the process could be reversed. Again, easily than this. No CIA involvement at this point. You know what it takes here? Restriction of some liberties for small groups which are self-declared enemies of the society. As simple as that. Oh no, the media and liberals will tell you this is against the American Constitution. How can we, by force, deny the civil rights to criminals, for example? It's not good. Okay? So we allow them to. Okay, if you allow the criminals to have civil rights, go on and bring the country to the crisis. This is a bloodless way to do. Curb the rights. I mean, not to put them in prison. No, I'm not talking about putting all the gays from San Francisco in the concentration camp. Do not allow them to take political force. Do not elect them to the seats of power, whether it is municipality level, state level, or federal level. It has to be beaten in the heads of American voters that a person like that in the seats of power is an enemy. Do not be afraid of this word. It is an enemy. If he is not an enemy here, he will be here. Later on, he will be shot, of course. But at this point, he is an enemy. Okay? You are doing great service by denying him a right to capitalize on his own crazy ideas and become a powerful man, a man who uses the seat of power. Restriction of certain freedoms and permissiveness at that point would prevent sliding into crisis and probably will return the process of destabilization. to curb unlimited power, monopolistic power of trade unions, here, at that point, would save economy from collapsing. To introduce a law to stop private companies of raping public opinion's mind in the direction of consumerism. No company must have a right to force you into buying more unless you want it. There must be a law. You want to advertise your car? Okay. But not a single mentioning of buying it now and saving money. It must be against the law to force people to consume more. Self-restraint. Previously, before this process started, the self-restraint was a business of church, religion. Because our preachers, the fathers of church, would tell us, material values are good, but it's not the prime function of human being. Because you have to live with something. Obviously, the design for our life is not to consume more deodorants. There must be something greater. If such a complicated instrument as human body was created, obviously there must be some higher purpose for that. And it's very easy to avoid destabilization by denying the greedy companies one little freedom, one little liberty, forcing you into turning yourself into processors of unwanted products and goods. They turn you into machines, like the worm who there's inlet and outlet. So, and how long an average appliance lasts these days? Less than a year. Why? Where's workmanship? Well, we want you to buy more.
Let's see how long this takes. I'm on my phone with my wife. We're joking back and forth. And she said something. I said, that's enough to make me want to hang up on you right here. And she said, go ahead. So I went, click. So let's see whether she calls me back and cusses me out. She should know better. Yeah, she should know better.
Okay. This stabilization process could be easily overcome if, as I say, the society, by its own will or after persuasion by the leaders, will come to the idea of self-restraint. It's so hard we want to consume more, but you have to. Unless you will come to this stage, when, as we say in Russia, if Sahara Desert ever becomes a communist state, there will be shortage of sand. So you have to curb your... you have to curb your expectations at this point before it's too late. But no, we don't want to do it. Demoralization process. Again, it's the easiest thing to reverse. First of all, by restricting import of propaganda. The easiest thing to do. Unlimited.
I don't completely agree with some of that, because I do. Free speech, I'm 100% absolute. Say it. As long as it, go back to principles. So as long as it doesn't wrongfully deprive someone else of life, liberty, or property, say it. I think this dude could have seen how government is used against us. I just don't think he would have seen our own government doing it at this point. Could be just because his frame of reference came from him being a KGB agent and him working to do all of this stuff. I don't think he ever thought the American government was going to be this bad and continue to do it to their own people at the level that they do it. I don't think he's alive anymore. I kind of wish I could dig him up and show him what's going on today and be like, what do you think? More than likely, he'd be like, y'all are fucked.
Restrained import of Soviet literature, Soviet journalists, giving Soviet propaganda and ideological agitators equal time on American TV networks. It has to be stopped. And it's easy. They won't be affected.
I got to say it here, just because we listened to it today. Listen to 2 Supreme Court cases about one, the government calling up social media companies, Facebook, Twitter at the time, now it's X, YouTube, and being like, hey, you have to remove this stuff. This stuff is against the narrative. And YouTube and all the rest of the companies, Twitter and everything, banning people's accounts, locking people out of their accounts, basically censoring the information that the government wanted censored. The second case was about the NRA and their advertising and their narrative and their message, and that basically being curtailed because the powers in New York said, hey, we're going to threaten anybody that supports you. We're going to threaten the banks. We're going to threaten the people who are underwriting your insurance. Did he pass away in 93? I knew he probably wasn't around anymore, and I may have remembered the 93 number, but yeah, this is oh, I wish his spirit would come back and I could like grab the Ouija board and talk to him, because this shit right here would blow his mind. And again, this is like 84. He's warning us about the subversion coming from the KGB in Russia. But this is what our own government does to us every single day, and our media is completely complicit with it. Again, going back to Donald Trump's statement about it's going to be a bloodbath for auto manufacturers if I don't win, and they just say, oh, well, Trump said it's going to be a bloodbath in the United States if he doesn't get elected. Everything's going to go. No, fuck me running, man. Most people run around with a supercomputer in their hands every day, and they can't do basic research to support their own points, because they don't want to, because their own points, if they heard a dissenting opinion, it would destroy their narrative. So they have to keep that narrative up. Non-playable characters is the vast majority of American society at this point.
Mind you. As a matter of fact, they will respect America more. But when my former colleague Vladimir Posner appears on Nightline, and Ted Koppel asks him, well, Vladimir, what do you think about this? And what can he think?
What's up, brother?
He's an instrument of propaganda. He thinks what Comrade Andropov tells him to think. He's just a nice, articulate mouthpiece of the Soviet subversion system. And Ted Koppel makes you believe that my friend Vladimir Posner thinks...
Yeah.
The process of demoralization may not have started at all if at that point the country, which is a recipient of subversion, actively, not violently, but actively, prevents importation of foreign ideology. I don't want America to follow the pattern of ancient Japan. You don't have to shoot every foreigner when it approaches the sacred borders of the United States. But when he offers you a junk in the disguise of very shiny something, you have to tell him, no, we have our own junk.
Yep.
If at that point the society is strong, brave, and conscientious enough to stop importation of ideas which are foreign, then
Sharia law. Just saying.
and the whole chain of events could be prevented. Recently I've been to Philippines, and I was shocked how in big cities like Manila, children listen to deafening music. A melodious nation with long traditions of good, nice ethnic music, introduced by Spanish long time ago, maybe 2 centuries, 3 centuries.
And that's kind of a funny point. One, I am all for loud ass music. Love loud music. As long as it's the right music. If it's a yodeler, probably not so much. Although I can respect the. But think about how much American gangster rap has influenced the rest of this world.
Centuries ago, I don't remember how. All of a sudden, listen to musical garbage, blasting their radios at full blast, at the full volume. Why?
Look, I like my music
In
at full
India,
volume.
I spent many years watching the reactions of Indians walking out of movie theaters after seeing Hollywood production. They couldn't figure out why Americans are so wasteful. They smash their cars, their shiny cars, every 5 minutes. How come they shoot each other for $500,000? Is it true that they're so
These motherfuckers will shoot you over $20.
I mean,
What are you
obsessed
talking
with
about?
sex?
$500,000.
Can you imagine showing a movie where each 5 minutes there's a copulation on the screen to a country like India with long tradition of respect to these private matters, or to Pakistan? And United States expect these people to respect you? No way. Oh yes, they will see the movie. They'll pay 5 rupees to see that garbage. But they walk out and will tell their kids, don't respect Americans. Don't be like Americans. See? So, the process of demoralization could be stopped right here, both as an expert and as an impert. And that takes one step, one very important thing to do. You don't have to expel all the KGB agents from Washington, D.C. The most difficult and at the same time the simplest answer to the subversion is to start it here and even before, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it.
Yeah, 500. If you love this country, if you love the traditional values, yeah, you don't have to be involved in religion or anything else. You just have to love freedom. You have to love individual freedom, choices, responsibility. You are the most hated person in America right now. And this dude is telling you how we got there to this point. And we could stop it. If we would listen to a message given to us in 1984, we could stop it. Problem is there are too many non-playable characters in the United States that actually their vote's going to count just as much as mine and yours. And they vote in very large numbers, even if they just give their ballot over to someone else and someone else puts their ballot in a box and they get counted. Bloodbath was also economic time. Still understand. Yeah. Dude, again, very simple, basic research. And people won't do it. It's why I like long form content.
Scientist.
And let me stop this here. It's why I like long form content. That's why I don't give you just a quote from someone 99.9% of the time. I don't just give you a quote from somebody. We'll go watch an entire congressional hearing. We'll go watch or listen to oral arguments. We'll watch entire freaking 2-hour long, 3-hour long events. I'll call them events because it encompasses a lot of things. Because I want people to hear what is being said in context. Even if 80% of the BS we listen to has nothing to do with that one thing, I want you to hear the 20% that does. And that's not what we hear today. the media will take a simple snippet out of something, give you the very narrow snippet of it, don't show you what comes before, don't show you what comes after, and there's a large portion of America that just run with that, and it pisses me off of that people are that intellectually lazy. And on multiple social media platforms, they will treat you like you're a knuckle-dragging idiot if you dare disagree with him, even though they're completely wrong.
Shafarevich, who has nothing to do with religion, he is a computer scientist, did a very intensive research on the history of socialist countries. He calls socialist or communist any country with a centralized economy and a pyramidal style of power structure. And he discovered, actually he didn't discover it, he just brought to attention of his readers, that civilizations like Mohenjo-Daro,
cherry picking is the easiest way to put that, and the nicest way.
Like Egypt, like Maya, Incas, like Babylonian culture, collapsed and disappeared from the surface of Earth. The moment they lost religion, as simple as that, they disintegrated. Nobody remembers about them anymore. Well, distantly. So, the ideas are moving society and keeping mankind as a society of human beings, intelligent, moral agents of God. The facts, the truth, the exact knowledge may not. All the sophisticated technology and computers will not prevent society from disintegrating and eventually dying out. Have you ever met?
There was a saying, and I can't remember who it was. It's been cited in a couple things about, and it basically came down to the culture. If they control the poets, if they control the writers, if they control the musicians, then they control the culture. And yes, I'm sorry if all your videos about bitches and hoes and shooting people and that culture gets promoted over personal responsibility and taking care of your kids. If that's how we end up where we're at. It's the subversion.
A person who would sacrifice his life, freedom, for the truth like that. This is truth. I never met a person who said, this is truth and I'm ready to shoot me. To defend the truth. Right? But millions sacrifice their life, freedom.
Oh, comedians.
Everything.
Comedians, and it's been said before, and I can't remember who exactly coined the phrase, but comedians are the canary in the coal mine. When your comedians start to conform to the political message, it's done. Political speech is absolutely done. And you look at leftist comedians, I didn't agree with George Carlin about a lot of things, but George Carlin, one of his, and I may have to look it up before we finish up the stream, was talking, it was asked something about this collusion in government, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was like, all these people don't have to be in the same meeting to come to the same agenda. They just have the same goals. So there doesn't have to be the secret Dakota ring of, hey, we're taking over Illuminati shit. No, they just have the same goals. So they're the powerful, and it all works to accomplish those goals. As a matter of fact, I will. I'll look it up before the stream is out, because he was 100% right. It doesn't have to be the secret meeting of the whoever's. It's the powerful people that have the same goals. They don't have to have necessarily the same agenda or the same way to get there. They have the same end goal in mind, and all of their work is going to go in that direction. Comedians were the ones that were always calling stuff out. Robin Williams talking about Joe Biden over a decade ago was hysterical. And in my opinion, I wouldn't have agreed with Robin Williams on a lot of things. I think he was a brilliant comedian. And it was very sad for me. He was actually probably one of my favorite comedians. It was very sad with me, or for me, when I heard that he killed himself. Yeah, that was a very sad day. I mean, I don't know. I think I may have emailed something to myself. I'll have to try to look for that too before we end the stream.
For things like God, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you don't see Johnny Carson anymore at all.
Some martyrs in the Soviet concentration camp died. And they died in peace, unlike...
Hold on. If Robin Williams stole my hat, that would be one of the fondest memories that I ever had, even if I loved that hat. If he stole my JSD supply hat, I'm going to throw JSD out there, that would have been one of the favorite memories that I've ever had. Since he was just that dude, man. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have broken his balls about it forever and wouldn't have mentioned him in everything that I did, but it would have been a happy memory.
Those who shouted, "Long live Stalin," knowing perfectly well that he may not live long. Something which is not material moves society and helps it to survive. And the other way around, the moment we turn into 2 by 2 is 4 and make it a guiding principle of our life, our existence, we die. Even though this is true, and this we cannot prove. We only can feel and have faith in it. So the answer to ideological subversion, strangely enough, is very simple. You don't have to shoot people, you don't have to aim missiles and Pershings and cruise missiles at Andropov's headquarters. You simply have to have faith and prevent subversion. In other words, not to be a victim of subversion. Don't try to be a person who in judo is trying to smash your enemy and being caught by your hand. Don't strike like that. Strike with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. If you don't have that power, it's high time to develop it. And that's the only answer. That's it.
Thank you.
This is a shouldn't take but a sec for me to get it up on screen. Oh, you dirty bastards, don't even go there. Let me see. I want to see whether this is what I had. And then it comes down to, and this is the Robin Williams part. I'm going to look up the George Carlin in just a second. So that was the end of the Yuri stuff. You want to call him Yuri, and his name was whatever on the screen, because Yuri Bezmenov is what he went by, I think, when he was working with the KGB or right when he defected. So it was kind of an alias. Oh, dude. Why didn't you say something earlier. I'll give you a link. Jump in here, Knight. And we're going to listen to a couple things. I got to goof off till the wife gets home. Once she gets home, playtime's over. I got to go after that. But until she gets home, while the cat's away, the mice can play. There's Night Strike. Oh, hold on. Oh, there you are.
Is this thing on?
Do you have popsicle sticks taped onto it?
Yes.
Then it's up.
Yeah, but no. I was making a joke, but actually, another good watch is actually listening to Barry Goldwater about his view on libertarianism, because he had some great interviews on freedom.
Dude, if you
and I don't know if you know who he was. He was the senator who was the senator for Arizona before McCain.
I kind of remember Goldwater. I don't remember him completely.
I mean, he died in like the early 90s, but he was really prolific in the 80s and beforehand, and like he's one of the front runners that started the libertarian movement before all the potheads from the Green Party decided to jump ship and go libertarian.
Yeah, basically.
And ruin the whole party.
The Libertarian Party, was one of my biggest.
That's why I'm not libertarian right now. I mean, I believe in the message, but the problem is the party itself does not have true libertarians in it.
No.
Because you can yell taxation is theft until you're blue in the face, but that doesn't mean you're a libertarian.
No. True libertarians just believe in small government, period. And there are a lot of people in the so-called libertarian party that may believe in legalization of drugs, but everything else that they believe in is all big government policies. And I'm sorry, you can't cram those two into the same bucket.
Yeah.
Let's play this for a second. I think this was the video that I was looking at. We're talking about Robin Williams. And what you have to
I miss him. I really miss him.
I do, man. I loved Robin Williams. From the time he was on Mork and Mindy, I remember that shit.
I remember that shit too, even though I was just a wee lad.
Yeah.
For some of it.
But it's hard for me to believe a lot of the people around him didn't see this shit. But let's watch this real quick.
It's pure and generous. It's not small and selfish.
Hold on.
They say that love is pure and generous. It's not small and selfish. The only people who don't look back with regret are idiots and psychopaths. And I got a lifetime of regrets, boy. Why? Why? I mean, what kind of God? What kind of world? It's a stinking con game. You grew up being told, wait for the sweets and the roses. Then they hit you with a pickaxe in the ear. Grief. They say you pass through it. Bullshit! They say, don't get angry. Oh, let it go. It's killing you. I say, fuck that! Anger's the only thing they left me. I love you. That's my rock bottom. That's my immutable. My damn the naked soul. I was wrong. I hope you can forgive me. I pray for your happiness.
If that shit right there doesn't kick you right in the fucking nuts, nothing will. And if that was really some of his last words,
yeah,
it's hard for me to believe the people around him didn't see that.
That's
hard for me.
Those words are the words of someone that needs someone to talk to. Someone's that's lashing out.
Those are the words of a person who has had a whole lot of people hanging on their coattails for a long time, but never really had that good friend. The guy you can call at 2:00 in the morning and be like, "Hey, brother, I need to talk."
I mean, you and I, it's like I can call you at 2 a.m. in the morning, whether you answer or not is one thing, because most likely you're probably complaining about the U.S. government on stream.
This is very possible. However, if you jumped in the chat and said, "Send me a link," we can have a heart to heart.
Yeah, it's just.
Or if you didn't want to have it, then I'll jump on the phone with you.
Yeah, it's just.
But,
and we always joke about my wood, which I got a couple good pictures of that wood.
Some more pretty good wood tonight.
Yeah, that's the one that Mark Novak helped me match the upper handguard to.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah. Let me see what I can find this other one real quick.
So,
oh shit. George Carlin. Let me see if I can find this one. Bitch, I clicked. Never mind. I might have to copy this back over. This is one where George, he's basically talking about the people that run things.
Right.
I want him to type one day. Probably not, but I will. Kind of, sort of, maybe. It helps if I could spell. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was like the Donahue show or something, or this was it. No, it was freaking Bill Maher. I was way off on that. If this is one I'm thinking about, this is it. Hold on, where'd it go? There we go.
That were created here in California as a result of a conspiracy,
you don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They're in the same country clubs. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them, and they're getting it. And there used to be 7 oil companies. There are now 3. It will soon be 2. The things that matter in this country have been reduced in choice. There are 2 political.
How many actual oil companies do we have right now?
That is a good question.
Parties. There are a handful of insurance companies. There are about 6 or 7 information things. But if you want a bagel, there are 23 flavors because you have the illusion. You have the illusion of choice.
Right.
You don't get the real important choice. There's no freedom of choice.
That's a great point. Right. And speaking of...
Yeah. I may agree or disagree with George Carlin about a lot of stuff politically. I think he was on the head right there. Cocaine makes a lot of people crazy people. Yeah, dude. From what I understand, Robin was pretty big cocaine. Well, that probably a lot of other drugs, but he was, I guess you could call him your basic kind of manic depressive. When he was up, he was way up. And when he was down, he was like 100 foot under the ground down. And I think you'll probably find a lot of comedians are like that. So anyway, Night Track, where's your link for the Goldwater stuff? Come on, man.
Here,
all this shit.
I will. Jesus. Here.
You were supposed to have that. You were supposed to have it.
That's from the 19. It's from 1964. But that's a good quote right there.
Right where?
Where's
that?
Chat. Side chat, private chat.
Oh, side chat. What? Well, you said it in
Hey,
private chat.
Just because you're not looking doesn't mean I didn't.
Hey, look,
try.
I wasn't looking when I found my wife, so
Well, yeah. Well, you got lucky there, or she got lucky, or your kids got lucky. I'm not sure which. Somebody's lucky somewhere.
Well, I definitely got lucky twice, considering we have 2 kids.
Well, there's also a dog in the mix, so I don't know. Maybe the dog is the one that got lucky.
That dog is living with my mother-in-law because apparently I talk way too much shit about the ATF. Think I'm joking. That dog moved out of the damn house.
Wow.
She's been staying with she's in love with my mother-in-law's German Shepherd.
That's what it is.
Yeah, there's a little bit more to it than that. But yeah, she's pretty much heard me talking all this shit about the ATF and decided she was moving out because she ain't dying for the cause. Let me extract this video and then we'll pull it up. Which was awful funny. Because that dog was like, oh, hold on, wait a second. He has, that about the ATF shooting dogs and no, I'm moving out.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It probably has a lot to do with the shit I talk. Sam, what's up, my brother?
Bob is like, your dog eloped. Yep.
Oh, yeah, she did. And it's funny because, I don't know, she'll just snap out on it. And Gunny, my mother-in-law's shepherd, that dog's got to be 125 to maybe 130 pounds. He's a big shepherd. And she's 45 pounds maybe. And is a complete race car compared to he's an absolute tank. And they play together and everything. But all of a sudden she'll just snap out on him and be chasing him across the yard. Like, what did he do? He doesn't know.
Dog got tired of having to wear a tannerite vest.
Hey, look, I never put a tannerite vest on her. It's the stuffed dog in the foyer. I wouldn't do that to her. That stuffed dog has no feelings. Let's see. Let's go to video share. Go to
actually the video I linked to is a reference to extremism.
Oh hell yeah! Let's watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, Warsaw's texting me.
Yeah, don't listen to Warsaw.
Hold on.
I sent you a link.
Hey, I know, but I downloaded it. But where did the fucking video go?
Oh, that's a good point. Where did it go?
It's in the recent downloaded history.
Go in the folder. Go in the folder. Open the folder.
I'm in the folder. However,
gotta share it.
Gee, thanks, Captain Obvious. I couldn't figure that out.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
I might be having some technical difficulties here.
Yes, it's PEBCAC. Problem exists between chair and keyboard.
Because for some reason, it's not showing up in the fucking downloads. There it is.
It happens. It happens.
See? Right here.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
Why did that just pause?
No, that's it. It's the quote. It's only like a 30.
Oh, that's the whole quote?
Yeah. It's the one good one. There's there's a couple interviews and whatnot on Liberty or whatnot, but I can't find them right away on YouTube. So
these are the messages I get. My wife sending me a message about she'll buy her own bagels because I told her my bagels are for breakfast and she was eating them for dinner.
Well, tell her I'll send more pictures of wood.
Oh, trust me, I'll show her the 30 as soon as she gets here.
Yeah. So the Dems would want to lock him up today. Yes, they would. They'd really like the and I say Barry Goldwater was like the forerunner for libertarianism, and he was. Before anybody says anything, yes, he was a prolific member of the Republican Party. But his views were very, very contrast to what the Republican Party's views are now, or even then.
Oh God, man, those views have changed so much.
Listen, guys, I know it sounds crazy, but there are people in the Republican Party that are very libertarian. Okay, you might be aware of two of them, one former and one serving.
Who?
Like, have you ever heard of Ron Paul or his son Rand?
Yeah, those are about the only two I can think of offhand.
They are very libertarian, and I don't blame them.
Oh God, there was another damn thing I was going to show, and I lost my damn brain. Like I ever had it, but you know,
it definitely looks like you ever had it.
No, I probably never had it. Where was it at? Was it this or was that? Hold on, I'll figure it out in just a sec. Let's get past the disclaimers and I'll remember what the hell it is.
Hysteria in the Soviet propaganda was to...
All right, so we'll listen to this for a second, and then we'll
goody, more KGB.
Hey, look, he's just telling you how you got fucked.
But
although he was the one doing.
I've got a book from the Cold War called "Secrets of the KGB." If you didn't know, it's a good read.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, it's good.
Our conversation is with Mr. Yuri.
And I can't remember. I think Yuri did the lecture before this conversation. But this kind of goes...
Alexandrovich Bezmenov. Mr. Bezmenov was born in 1939 in a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. One of his interesting assignments was to brainwash foreign diplomats when they visited Moscow. And he'll tell us a little bit about how they did this and how they planted information which eventually wound up in the press of the free world. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Mr. Bezmenov, I'd like to begin by having you tell us a little bit.
You know what kills me about this whole thing? Is Yuri was coming at this from his background, which was the KGB and the USSR kind of influencing American politics and things.
Yeah.
But what really kills me is our government does this to us every single day without any influence from anybody else. They want to push their own power, and they do these very things every single day, and the media just fuels it. So, I mean, basically at this point, you could replace KGB with American government and then put the media in as their freaking mouthpiece, and all this stuff works out perfectly.
Yeah.
About some of your childhood memories.
Well, the most vivid memory of my childhood was Second World War, or to be more precise, the end of the Second World War, when all of a sudden the United States, from a friendly nation, which helped us to defeat
Hell, I hope
Nazism,
this get rid of
turned overnight into a deadly enemy. And it was very shocking because all newspapers were trying to present an image of belligerent, aggressive American imperialism.
I don't know how long I got left before the wife gets to the house, and I can't play with others when she gets home. But anyway, anybody who wants to
You don't
join
play
while
well
the
with
links
others.
up. No, I don't play well with others.
No.
That's kind of been a running theme throughout my life. I'm not a joiner.
Most of the things that we were taught is that United States is aggressive power, which is just about to invade our beautiful, free, socialist country. That American CIA is dropping Colorado beetles on our beautiful potato fields to eliminate our crops. And each schoolboy had a picture of Colorado bug on the back page of his notebook. And we were instructed to go into collective fields to search for those little Colorado bugs. Of course, we couldn't find any. Neither we could find many potatoes. And that was explained again by the encroachments of the decadent imperialist power. The anti-American paranoia, hysteria in the Soviet
the CIA
propaganda
didn't exist
was
until
to such an
1947.
Yeah.
And World War II ended in 1945, just FYI.
How dare you throw facts and logic out there?
I know, right? Shame on
You gotta
me.
be burned at the damn stake like a witch these days.
Oh, you don't you threaten me with a good time.
Depends on which stake you're getting burnt at.
Right.
Just saying.
Of such a higher degree
ribeye.
That many less skeptical people or less stubborn would really believe that United States.
Although I will say this, if you cook me like a ribeye, that bitch better be medium rare.
I'm more of a medium guy.
I prefer to poke it, still hear it move. Maybe that's because I was with a bunch of fat chicks in the past.
Well, that could be.
This is just about to invade our beautiful motherland.
You might have seen
and
one
some
up close.
secretly hope that it will come true.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, getting back to life inside the Soviet Union,
they
inside
came
communist countries in general.
Yes.
In this country,
exactly. Yes.
At the university level, primarily, we read and hear that the Soviet system is different from ours, but not that different, and that there is a convergence developing between all of the systems.
I will say that. Not this different these days.
Of the world. And that really doesn't make an awful lot of difference what system you live under, because you have corruption and dishonesty and tyranny and all that sort of thing. From your personal experience, what is the difference between life under communism and life in the United States?
Well, life is obviously very much different for simple reason that the Soviet Union is a state capitalist economically. It's a state capitalism where an individual has absolutely no rights, no value. His life is nothing. It's just like an insect. He is disposable. Whereby in the United States, even the worst criminal is treated as a human being. He has a fair trial, and some of them capitalize on their crimes. They publish their memoirs in their prisons and get handsomely paid by your crazy publishers. The differences, of course, in the daily
people want a good story. They want a good story, you know?
Yeah, and there was an act, I can't remember what year it was passed into, where like Jeffrey Dahmer couldn't make money off his memoirs or something like that. Not directly. Did he still make money off of them? Yes, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of ways around that. They couldn't just, Jeffrey Dahmer, I'll use him as the example, couldn't just write his memoir down, send it to a publisher and say, hey, I'm getting all the proceeds off this book. They couldn't do that anymore. However, could people donate and do all these other things? Yes. And yes, American society in a lot of cases does eat that stuff up.
Various, depending on whom we are talking about. In my own private life, I never suffered from communism simply because I was brought up in a family of high-ranking military officer. Most of the doors were open for me. Most of my expenses were paid by the government. and I never had
Yeah,
any
son of
troubles
Sam law,
with
Bob.
the
You got it
authorities or
100%.
with the police. So, in other words, I would say I enjoyed, or I had good reasons to enjoy all the advantages of so-called socialist system. My main motivations to defect had nothing
Hunter Biden. Just want to throw that name out there.
to do with
Whoa,
affluence.
whoa, whoa.
It
Somebody
was
say crack?
mainly moral indignation.
Those two are synonymous, so
They
yeah.
are. Yeah. Did they find it in the
moral
White House
protest, rebellion against the
I want to see an actual bill for how much his fucking dental work costs.
again?
Because I guarantee you it's more than the average house in the United States.
Oh wow. Oh wow. This is hilarious.
I will guarantee you.
No.
human methods of,
You know how
of
people
the Soviet system.
sometimes drag political flags on their cars?
Yeah.
Apparently the Democrats have pissed the Amish off enough that they're hanging Trump signs off their buggy.
Oh, yeah, that was happening in 2020.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
there
happening
were
right now.
Yeah, there were multiple videos of a horse and buggy going down the road with a Trump flag hanging off the ass end of it in 2020.
Yeah, I'm just seeing a picture right now. It's like a whole row of them now.
Oh God, even the fucking Amish are doing it.
Even the Amish are taking Trump's side on this one.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
Well,
he might be
specifically,
right
what
about
did you
something.
object to?
Yes.
I objected, first of all, against oppression of my own dissidents and intellectuals. And that was the most disgusting thing
Yes.
that I witnessed as
Bob
a
is
young
dead
man,
on.
young student, who was brought up at a very troublesome period in our history, from Stalin to Khrushchev, from total tyranny and oppression to some kind of liberalization. Second, when I started working for the Soviet embassy in India, to my horror, I discovered that we are millions times more oppressive than any colonial or imperialist power in the history of mankind. That my country brings to India not freedom, progress, and friendship between the nations, but racism, exploitation, and slavery. And of course economical inefficiency to this country. Since I fell in love with India, I developed something which by KGB standards is extremely dangerous thing. It's called split loyalty, when an agent likes a country of assignment more than his own country. I literally fell in love with this beautiful country, a country of great contrasts, but also great humility, great tolerance, and philosophical and intellectual freedoms. My ancestors used to live in caves and eat raw meat when India was a highly civilized nation 6,000 years ago. So obviously the choice was not to the advantage of my own nation. I decided to defect and to entirely dissociate myself from that brutal regime.
Mr. Bezmenov, we've read a lot about the concentration camps and the slave labor camps under the Stalin regime. Now the general impression in America is that those things are part of the past. Are they still going on today, or what is the status?
Yes.
Shit, they going on
There is
today
no
right now.
qualitative change in
You know,
in
he
the
doesn't say
Soviet
anything. He
concentration
hardly
camp
says anything
system.
about the Stasi.
There are changes in
Yes.
numbers of prisoners.
You know why?
Again, this is
Because he's afraid of Putin.
unreliable Soviet statistics.
Yeah, probably
We don't
so.
know how many
Because remember,
political prisoners
Putin was
are
the
there.
KGB oversight for the Stasi during the Cold War.
Yeah, Putin was involved. God damn, I'd have to look up exactly how old he is now. But he was coming up through the 80s, I believe. He was coming up at least through the 80s in the KGB.
Putin is like 2 years
and
older
even
than my
back
father.
then, he had a rep as being that dude that would slit your fucking throat. So
3 years.
yeah. And yeah, Blade, when the wife comes home, I gotta take my little red ball, I gotta go inside, street lamps are on, all that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or I'm just not getting laid. So there are certain priorities, just saying.
In the Soviet concentration camps.
That's why he's drinking
But
fast.
we sure
right now.
know from various sources that at each particular time there are close to 25 to 30 million of Soviet citizens who are virtually kept as slaves in forced labor camp system. The size of the population of a country like Canada is serving terms as prisoners.
Incredible.
So I would say that those intellectuals who try to convince American public that concentration camp system is a thing of a past are either conscientiously misleading public opinion or they are not very intellectual.
Yeah, Bob says, Putin's 71. So my dad's 77. I think in Vietnam, my dad was 19 to 20. So by the time we roll around to the 80s, yeah, Putin was a up-and-comer in the KGB. Let's put it that way. KGB intelligence offers. Oh, let me throw this up here.
Mm-hmm.
For 16 years.
For most of the 80s, he was the KGB oversight for.
So there's no doubt. Yeah, there is no doubt Yuri would have known more than likely who Putin was.
Mm-hmm.
People, they
stayed away from him.
Blind.
Yes,
they lack intellectual honesty when they say that.
Well, we've spoken about the intellectuals in this country and also the intellectuals in the Soviet Union. What about down at the broad mass level? Do the people in general, the working people, the workers in general in the Soviet Union, do they support the system? Do they tolerate it? What is their attitude?
Well, average Soviet citizen, if there is such an animal, of course, does not like the system because it hurts, it kills. He may not understand the reasons. He may not have enough information or educational background to understand. But I doubt very much there are many people who are conscientiously supporting the Soviet system. There are not such people in USSR. Even those who have all the reasons to enjoy socialism, people like myself, who were a member of journalistic elite, they also hate system for different reasons, though. Not because they lack material affluence, but because they are unfree to think, they are in constant fear, duplicity, split personality. And this is the greatest tragedy for my nation.
Well, what do you think are the chances of the people actually overcoming their system or replacing it?
There is a great possibility that system will sooner or later be destroyed from within. There is a self-destructive mechanism built into any socialist or communist or fascist system because there is lack of feedback, because the system does not rely upon loyalty of population. But until this Soviet junta is being supported by the Western so-called imperialists, that is, multinational companies, establishments, governments, and let's face it, intellectuals, so-called academia in the United States is famous for supporting the Soviet system. As long as the Soviet junta will keep on receiving credits, money, technology, grain deals, and political recognition from all these traitors of democracy or freedom, there is no hope, there is not much hope for changes in my country, and the system will not collapse by itself simply because it's being nourished by so-called American imperialism. This is the greatest paradox in history of mankind, when capitalist world supports and actively nourishes its own destructor.
I think you're trying to tell us something.
Oh,
yes, Corey.
I'm trying to tell you that it has to be stopped unless you want to end up in Gulag system and enjoy.
And see, Corey, that was...
unless you want to get Navalny'd.
That was one of those things where, yeah, that act came around about that time, but it was already proven that our government could lie to us all day long and get away with it. And they weren't held responsible for their lies. That just kind of cemented some stuff legally. And this is where it freaking drives me nuts. Our government is the is the best run and biggest crime family that has ever existed. The mafia wishes they had the power of our government because our government can simply legalize their crime through getting a bill voted through the House and the Senate and the president signing it.
Not anymore. They can just have a division of the government do it instead. Call it a ruling.
Well, yeah, they can call it. You know, they can call up one of the ABC
a rule or definition change.
Yes, and guess what will happen? The courts will uphold that shit
until the courts say you can't use Chevron deference.
That is going to be a big one coming up shortly. But I promise you, even if this next Supreme Court, even if their opinion comes down and completely shuts down Chevron deference, it's not done. It's going to be used until the American people stop it. How that happens, we can do it really, really nasty, or we can do it really, really not nasty. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Jury nullification, if you've never looked into it, yes. If we had more informed people in the United States when they got a jury together to convict someone like CRS of complete bullshit, and the jury went, no, we're not convicting on that. I don't give a shit what your law says. I don't have to explain my decision. I'm not convicting. We could shut down 90% of what this government does. But we
that would be nice. That'd be nice.
The majority of our country are straight non-playable characters at this point.
Sadly.
Blades, take it easy, my brother. Yeah, man, we'll catch you on the next one. 4 boxes, diner, freedom, ballot box. Yes. Soapbox, ballot box, jury box, ammo box. I would not hasten to say that we are not far from that whole ammo box situation at this point.
All the advantages of socialist equality, working for free, catching fleas on your body.
Now, what it takes to kick that ammo box situation off, I have no
plywood
idea.
In Alaska this time, I guess. That's where Americans will belong, unless they will wake up, of course, and force their government to stop aiding Soviet fascism.
Well, you told us a moment ago why you left the system. I'd like to hear the details of how you did it. It must have been a very dangerous thing.
It was not so dangerous, it was crazy. First of all, because defecting in India is virtually impossible. Thanks to very strong pressure from the Soviet government.
Excuse me, you were in India on assignment at that time.
Yes, I was working for the Soviet embassy in New Delhi as a press officer. And defecting
I don't know how
for
we
a
get
Soviet
to that last
diplomat
box.
is next to
It's going to take
impossible.
something
It's a
really,
suicide,
really
as
big.
I said, because
I don't know when exactly.
a great friend Indira Gandhi pushed a law through parliament which
we
says,
should have
and I
been there
quote,
already.
no defector from any country has a right of political asylum in any embassy on the territory of Indian Republic, which is a masterpiece of hypocrisy. No other defector but the Soviet one needs a political asylum. So knowing that perfectly well, I planned a craziest possible way to defect. I studied counterculture.
Yeah, but we
in India.
expect it now.
There were thousands of
I
young
completely
American boys and girls with no shoes, long hair, smoking hash and marijuana, studying sometimes
Marijuana.
Indian philosophy, sometimes simply pretending that they studied.
Marijuana.
And they greatly annoyed Indian police, and they were laughing stock of Indians because obviously they were good-for-nothing students. I studied carefully where they congregate, what routes they travel, what language they speak.
Oh shit,
what
she's
they
here!
smoke. And one day I simply joined.
Quick, show her my wood!
Of course
To avoid detection of Indian
Oh,
police.
get your phone, show her my wood.
I was dressed as a typical hippie with blue
I gotta show you
jeans,
more wood.
long camise shirts with all kind of nice decorations like beads, long hairs, I bought a wig because for several weeks I had to turn myself from a conservative Soviet diplomat into a very progressive American hippie. And that was the only way that I could avoid detection.
She's looking.
It was very interesting experience, but it was necessary because from my own knowledge as a member of Soviet embassy staff, I knew that there were many cases when Soviet defectors were betrayed by Indian police, and also some Western embassies played a very dirty role in betraying the Soviet defectors. According to our information, they were some, I wouldn't call them double agents, but simply immoral people.
Now she's all into it. I mentioned
the United States embassy,
liver.
and confining in people like this would be a suicide. So I had to be extremely careful. I could not trust anyone.
Plenty of Mark's videos.
And that was the reason for such a crazy way to defect.
Tell her that YouTube gunsmith was in the Navy.
Caught in the act of trying to get out.
Remember the video I showed you?
Most likely I would end up in concentration camp.
Got it back.
Or, depending on the situation and on the whim of some bureaucrat in KGB, maybe even executed. This is normal practice. Quietly, of course, not publicly.
Guns and not dicks.
But that would be the end
Could
of
be
my
your sister,
of course.
Well, when did you finally make it to the United States?
In 1970, after about 6 months of debriefing by the CIA,
so hard you can hit it down with a hammer.
You're on
they
hot
let me
mic, by the
go
way.
first to Germany, then to Canada.
Trust me, I knew I didn't mean.
That was my decision. I had to change my identity to protect
But
my
some
family
jokes just deserve to
and
be
my
shared
friends
with the
in
crowd.
USSR.
Oh boy.
And also, I was a little bit paranoid, knowing that both Soviet KGB and probably some double agents within the American system may be after me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to settle down as far away as possible. I requested CIA to give me some kind of new identity and just let me go on my own. And I settled in Canada. I was a student. I changed many professions from farm help and laundry truck driver to language instructor and broadcaster for Canadian Broadcasting Corporations in Montreal.
How'd you get your whole arm in the pipe?
Well, have you had any threats on your life or any unpleasant?
In about 5 years, KGB eventually discovered that I am working for Canadian Broadcasting. I made a very big mistake. I started working for overseas service of CBC, which is similar to Voice of America, in Russian language. And of course, monitoring service in USSR picked up every new voice. Every new announcer they would make it a point to discover who he is. And in 5 years, sure enough, slowly but surely, they discovered that I am not Thomas Schumann, that I am Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov, and that I'm working for Canadian Broadcasting, and undermining beautiful détente between Canada and USSR. And the Soviet ambassador Alexander Yakovlev made it his personal effort to discredit me. He complained to Pierre Trudeau, who is known to be a little bit soft on socialism.
They probably heard me call
and the management of CBC behaved in a very strange, cowardly way, unbecoming to representatives of an independent country like Canada. They listened to every suggestion that Soviet ambassador gave.
It's a Trojan.
And they started shameful investigation, analyzing.
Let me remove him.
It's a Trojan rapper.
Yes.
I've never seen a Trojan rapper with Molin Abe on it.
Well, maybe we should start printing them up because it might work out really well. Come and take it.
But you know, the Trojan horse, dude. That's Greek.
He said he's never seen a Trojan rapper with the Mulan.
That would be.
I think it would be hysterical.
That would be on point.
I would make my own if I wasn't ripping off the whole Trojan logo at that point. Come and take.
Should I get it stamped right here?
No. Oh my God, I've never liked the damn tramp stamp.
Ah, come on. That'd be great.
It seemed like a come here target.
Yeah, for guys that like that kind of thing.
Which is pretty much all guys.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's like shooting still targets.
Yeah,
None
good
of
luck.
us can pass up shooting still targets.
Nope.
I haven't seen anybody tell me I'm wrong yet.
You know you're in a hole when you're covered by a Trojan. Yep.
Oh shit, Bob. Yes, absolutely.
I love the comments.
You go into, you definitely need that.
Well, it's not so hard getting in the hole. The problem is getting out.
Well, the problem is getting out without anything you don't want.
Yeah, and not going too deep.
Yeah, I've never had that. Well, I have had that issue actually, but okay.
Oh my God! Oh, I love our conversations.
Oh, dude, yeah,
they go down so
if
many.
your conversations don't go off the rails with a bunch of damn jokes, you are not having a very good conversation.
No, it's true. It's true.
That's just the way it is. But anyway, dude, let me get out of here. I'm gonna go cook some dinner and stuff, get the wife kiddo fed. And I say kiddo because my daughter is with my mom right now, and she's probably gonna hang out all week since she's on spring break.
Dang, oh man, said at least twice.
At least twice. Oh, hold on.
What?
Let me see that. I can't. Night Strike Hangout. I'm gonna show you this off stream. It's a gun. No, not that kind of gun, you dirty bastards in the chat. You got to see this. This barrel is at least an 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches around.
Don't worry, folks. I'll show him more. I'll give him more pictures of my wood.
Yes, it's a.
It's 1.25 inches.
It's at least 1.25 inches around.
Yeah,
you can't fit the standard like TP holder. I guarantee you can't get that around that barrel. So it's roughly my size, actually.
That's what she said.
It's a Remington 700.
True.
Why?
So anyway, let's say this one here because I do got to go cook. But Night Strike Hangout, I got to show you this.
All right, I'll be here.
As always, you perps keep that thing on you at all times. You guys be cool. Love all you guys to death, and we'll catch you on the next stream, guys. Have a good night. Hopefully, we'll catch you. There's a couple other people, and I can't think of them off the top of my head that are streaming tonight. So jump on there. Trinity Arms, that's the other one. If I had a link real fast, I'd post it. But look up Trinity Arms. That's freaking a couple of really cool guys that should be streaming tonight. You know, jump in their streams. Let's have a little bit of fun. And other than that, guys, I am out. I love you guys to death. And we're going to end this one here. I got to go cook. I'm a good cook. Shh. Don't tell anybody.
That's what he says.
Well, she says it too. Half the reason she married me is my dinner rolls.
I thought you were going to say cooking. I was like, no, rolls.
Yes. She even stopped me and said rolls. So, and not my fat rolls.
No, your jelly rolls.
Hey, look, I am all into jelly roll these days. So, you guys take it easy. We'll catch you guys on the next one, man.
Dude, you can fuck somebody up with